What's up guys, this is Ray and welcome to Asian Filmist, and today we'll be talking about the 2004 film Kibakichi Part 2, once again directed by Haraguchi Tomo'o and Hattori Daiji and starring Harada Ryuji. Now obviously Kibakichi 2 is the sequel to Kibakichi Part 1, which I reviewed earlier this month on this channel, so if you haven't done so yet, please check it out. And Kibakichi, he's just a little introduction to who he is once again. He's a werewolf warrior, if you will. He's one of the last surviving yokai, which is a spirit that lies in Japanese legends and folklore. And Kibakichi, just like all the yokai in this world, they have the ability to transform into a human, so that way they can blend in with their surroundings. So in Kibakichi 2, he continues to wander the land, and he's walking through until he encounters this ruffian warrior by the name of Sakuramaru. And basically Sakuramaru just wrecks on Kibakichi, and Kibakichi just kind of continues wandering until he stumbles upon this village where he befriends a blind girl. And then this village has a really weird relationship with Sakuramaru. Sakuramaru is known by the locals. He's known as just violent and a rough kind of dude who they try to stay away from. Because Sakuramaru, he loves killing so much that when the government actually sent the authorities to kind of put a stop to him, but he also killed them. So he just loves killing people. And when he encounters Kibakichi, he recognizes that Kibakichi is a yokai and that he's stronger than your average human, so he definitely wants to battle to the death with him. And then along the way, Sakuramaru meets Anju, who is the last surviving member of Kibakichi's village, and of course other than Kibakichi. But we met Anju very briefly in the first movie for a very short scene. But thankfully she gets a lot more to do with the plot in Kibakichi 2. So Sakuramaru and Anju versus Kibakichi, but they may have to set their differences aside and ally with each other once the town becomes ravaged by this mysterious wizard named Dogen and his followers. So let's talk about the positives of Kibakichi 2. Well, first, it seems like, it could be just me and my imagination, but it seems like the budget of Kibakichi 2 is slightly larger than that of the first movie. And I say that because the set designs seem a lot bigger. The colors seem a lot more vivid. Granted, it may not be the case that this movie has a larger budget, or rather the producers decide to spend the budget on other things. But still, overall, it seems like there are definitely a lot more players involved with this production. And with all the characters who are included in Kibakichi 2, I thought for the most part the character design was still pretty enjoyable, as well as the costume design, especially when you explore the yokai in this movie. I thought, I enjoy watching yokai whenever they're in any movie, and I especially like the yokai here and the special effects that are brought that bring these yokai to life. It's from a genre which I absolutely love, tokusatsu, like the kind of art, the kind of way they use to create the costumes and the special effects to bring these monsters to life. I praised it in the first movie, and I gotta praise it again in this movie. And one thing I dinged the first movie on was that Anju didn't get enough screen time. She only had one scene, and that was it. You didn't know anything about her. She was there to introduce a little bit about Kibakichi's background, but in regards to her as a character, you knew little to nothing about her. But here we explore a lot more of Anju, and that's something I can appreciate. She has her own character arc, and she has a ton of fighting scenes, and she even transforms into her werewolf form. But I gotta say, my favorite character in Kibakichi 2 has got to be Sakuramaru. He adds a lot of personality to everyone's pretty dry and depressing personalities. I think he was kind of a good counterbalance to everyone else. He was entertaining, he was funny, and another thing I got to applaud Kibakichi 2 about is that there were a lot more variety of action sequences featured in this movie. You definitely had a lot more swashbuckling, a lot more chambara going on. Kibakichi actually uses his sword more often than he did in the first movie. However, now this is going to transition into the negatives. However, despite having a variety of different action sequences in Kibakichi 2, I felt like the overall entertainment value of those action scenes felt a bit lower than the first movie. I generally enjoyed the first movie's action sequences and definitely enjoyed them a lot more than those featured here. And this movie has its own werewolf scene, and once again, similar to the first movie, it's reserved until the very final act. Now, one thing I liked about the first movie with its werewolf scene, it was hype, it was exciting, it was off the wall. The werewolf scene in Kibakichi 2, they try to go for a more dramatic, a more artistic approach. I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. I understand what they were trying to do, but I would have loved to have a more high energy action sequences similar to the first movie. Because when you get introduced to Kibakichi in his werewolf form, it was hype, it was energetic, and you wanted something more explosive than that in this movie, but you just don't get it. And as I mentioned earlier, there seem to be a lot more players as far as characters are concerned in this movie, but I felt like a lot of these characters were kind of wasted, tossed to the side. You get introduced to them, you know, to kind of build up the world around them, but you know, they have their introductions, like they're actually speaking to Kibakichi, interacting with them. You expect to you expect some kind of mini arc to come about from these interactions, but for the most part, nothing comes into fruition. They're pretty much tossed to the side and forgotten about as soon as the final act starts to happen. I mean, for example, when Kibakichi strolls into town, all the, you know, it's a human town, unlike the first movie when it was a yokai town. This time it's a human town. When he strolls into town, all the humans know that he's a yokai, so they're scared of him. They're like, oh, go away, we don't want your kind here. So you know, he wanders around until he finds the blind girl, and he saves this blind girl from this stray dog. And you know, she can't see that he's a yokai, but she knows that he's a yokai, but she still knows to owe him her gratitude and is kind to him. And she's the only one that shows any kind of remorse for Kibakichi in the whole town. Everyone's like, stay the F away from us. However, there comes a moment where you would expect that this fear of yokai or this fear of Kibakichi gets resolved in some way, shape, or form, but it doesn't. Rather, the humans, they get attacked, or rather, they get attacked by who appears to be Sakuramaru. So they ask Kibakichi for help. You know, please save us. You know, we don't know what to do. But they don't actually turn their opinion around about Kibakichi. You know, and I think that was a big minus when it came to character development. And I don't know, for me personally, I kind of like the whole setup of the first movie where it was Kibakichi strolling into a yokai town, interacting with yokai and humans were the enemy. In this one, he strolls into a human town, and I don't know, I kind of like him interacting with more yokai as it was in the first movie. He interacts with little to no yokai in this movie. I thought that was, you know, I don't know, it was kind of a disappointment because I genuinely like the yokai in this world, but you don't really explore those yokai as much as you do in the first movie. Overall, what did I think of Kibakichi 2? You know, it was okay. But if you compare it to the first movie, I thought it was definitely not as good. It has its strengths and it has its weaknesses when you compare it to the first movie. I think overall the first movie had a lot more entertainment value. And I honestly think if they amped up the action sequences in the second movie, I think it would have made it better. Instead, they try to go for, like I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about the werewolf scenes, they try to go for some more dramatic and artistic approaches. But I think if they just forgot about all that and just amped up the energy and the adrenaline, it would have been okay. Do I recommend Kibakichi 2? I mean, if you enjoyed Kibakichi, I definitely recommend it. It's a continuation of the story who I generally want to see more of. I kind of am interested in this character, as dull and personality-less as he is. I kind of am interested in the kind of adventures he would have. I mean, I don't know, I feel like with Kibakichi 2, they try to expand the world, expand the mythos of Kibakichi and the world that he lives in, but the effect of it all, it kind of made it more diluted. It made it a little bit more convoluted. I think it's probably because they focus maybe a little too much on Sakuramaru and Aju. As interesting as those characters were, they didn't focus as much on Kibakichi as in the first movie, and because of that, like I said, it felt very convoluted. And you know, and they also didn't dive much into who ultimately became the enemies, the bad guys, the villains in the story. They're interesting, but you only get glimpses as to what they're about. You don't really dive into a full-on backstory on who these characters are. At least not from what I remember, but I wish they would have dived into them a bit more. But anyways, yes, those are my thoughts on Kibakichi 2. What did you guys think? What kind of questions did you guys have? Let me know in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And by all means, please support Asian Films on Patreon. It definitely helps the channel a lot. And hey, did you know I started a Discord server for those of us who want to chat about Asian films? Leave a comment below and I'll extend the invite to you to join our Discord server. And yeah, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you all again in the next video. Take it easy.